and recommendation will be matched with a similar open approach to the necessary democratic reforms. It's clear that Kazakhstan still has a long way to go towards fulfilling its election commitments, although some progress was noted. The ruling party had a clear advantage over others in this election, and while the parties were generally able to campaign freely, genuine political choice remained insufficient. Significant legal reform is required to protect citizens' rights, and we hope that the newly elected parliament will find the political will to engage in a thorough reform process, which we are ready to support. Kazakhstan has committed itself to fulfilling a wide range of democratic rights and fundamental freedom of assembly and expression, but restriction on these remaining points. The anticipated reform of election legislation would be very important. We were very pleased to note that the Central Election Commission operated in a professional manner. While the election law is aimed to ensure political party representation in the election commission, it does not provide for an enforcement mechanism, and one party was largely underrepresented in lower level commissions. In a positive step, candidate registration was inclusive, and the Central Electoral Commission registered all candidates nominated by the 6 participating political parties. It was, however, evident that the ruling party has had a dominant position for government for many years now, which has effectively blurred the crucial distinction between the state and the party. In the field of the press, crowdfunding media showed a noticeable effort to meet formal requirement to provide contestants with equal access. However, the extensive reporting on the president's activities dominated most media outlets, and the ruling party used its position to its benefit. Also, restricted level provision and penalties suppressed public debate and alternative viewpoints. Overall, our main conclusions are that yesterday's elections were efficiently organized, with some progress noted, but indicate that Kazakhstan still has a considerable way to go in meeting its OSCE commitments for election. The legal framework restricts fundamental civil and political rights, and comprehensive reform is really required. As I've already said, in this positive development, candidate registration was inclusive and 6 party contested election, but genuine political choice is still lacking. While the campaign was okay, candidates were generally able to campaign freely. State-funded media made efforts to limit requirements for equal access, but analysis and political debate were insufficient, and the blurring of decisions with the state benefit the ruling party. On election day, serious procedural errors and irregularities were noted during voting, counting, and tabulation. It is so that the anticipated 2017 reform process will result in significant improvement. We also note that the authorities invited international observers in an open and unrestricted manner. We have raised a number of critical areas, and I hope that the new authorities will actively engage with these challenges in order to live up to the democratic desires of the people in this beautiful country. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Day. I will now ask Jordi Chopin, who headed the delegation of the Parliamentary Council.
Thank you, Andreas, ladies and gentlemen. Let me to thank the whole Kazakh people and the government to have the opportunity to scrutinize the electoral process. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe have an agreement of cooperation with the Parliament of Kazakhstan and were invited to observe the early parliamentary elections. I observed the elections in Kazakhstan before, during previous 2012 parliamentary elections, And I can say with confidence that these elections has been marked by progress. Specific areas were progress since 2012 parliamentary elections. And I believe that the people of Kazakhstan have spoken their mind. We think that the role of political parties and the parliament should be considerably reinforced. On behalf of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, I can assure you that we look forward to work together with the newly elected maxilis on the further developments of democratic institutions in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask Mr. Geir Jørgen Bekkevold, head of the delegation of the Parliamentary Assembly of the OSCE.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank our colleagues from the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe and from the OSCE Office for the Democratic Institutions and Human Rights for their work during this election observation mission. I agree with my colleagues what they have already said, but would like to make a few additional comments on behalf of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Our delegation includes more than 60 people, primarily members of parliaments from across the OSCE area. A number of my colleagues who were observing in polling station yesterday expressed concerns over the integrity of the voting process. We note indications of ballot box stuffing and a very high number of names added to the voter list in election day. As parliamentarians representing the people who elect us, we recognize the importance of democratic process. I want to underline that comprehensive legal reform, including reforms related to restrictions on voting rights and the freedoms of assembly and expression, is required for the authorities of Kazakhstan to fulfill their standard commitment to holding the democratic elections. Specific progress in these areas will go a long way toward ensuring greater political pluralism in Kazakhstan. Discussions often generate better ideas, and that this country would benefit from genuine political debate by encouraging greater political pluralism. I believe Kazakhstan can find better solutions to meet the challenges from the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bekkevold. Mr. Boris Berlet, who is head of the conservation mission employed by the OSCE Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights.
Thank you, Andreas. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Like my colleagues, I would like to thank the authorities here in Kazakhstan for the timely, open, and unrestricted invitation we received to come and observe these early parliamentary elections. The purpose of this afternoon press conference is to present our joint parliamentary statement of findings and conclusions. But before I go into some of the specifics of that assessment, I would like to say a few words about the purpose of our observation. The basic goal of observing and assessing the election process in any country is to assist that country in making elections better. No election is perfect, and the electoral process can benefit from improvements. The final report on these elections will be published in about 8 weeks. That report will contain recommendations based on our assessment as to how the election process can be brought closer to OSCE commitments and other obligations and standards for democratic elections. Like my colleagues here today, I welcome the intent that has been expressed to us by the Central Election Commission to propose legal amendments and other changes. Contestants of these elections were generally able to campaign freely throughout the country, although legal restrictions on the holding of public assemblies remain. 6 parties participated in these elections, but most contestants refrained from directly challenging the ruling party. The genuine political choice is still lacking. The dominant position of the ruling party at all levels for many years has effectively blurred the distinction in the state. The last governing election aimed to guarantee fundamental civil and political rights, but reform of the legal framework is necessary for it to be fully met with the international obligation and standards to which Kazakhstan has committed itself. Prior OSCE recommendations on restrictions to suffrage rights and freedom of assembly and expression have yet to be addressed. Regarding the media landscape, the Constitution guarantees freedom of expression and prohibits censorship. At the same time, penalties in the law that regulates the media have a stifling effect on public debate and suppress the expression of alternative viewpoints. ODIHR observation of this election has included comprehensive monitoring of the media environment. Positively, the monitoring reveals that state-funded media made an effort to meet formal requirements to provide all candidates with equal access. It also revealed, however, that one party received little platform-oriented coverage. There is also a general lack of in-depth analysis that provides voters with the opportunity to learn about different candidates, parties, and their policies. Extensive reporting on the president's activities dominated most of coverage, and the ruling party used this position to its benefit. In administering these elections, the Central Election Commission operated in a professional manner, and its sessions were open to observers, media, and political parties representatives. At lower levels, however, the Commission held sessions on an ad hoc basis and did not inform stakeholders. This limited the transparency of the process. While the election law gives each party the right to nominate commissioners members, there were no reinforcements of candidates. De facto, nor OTAN representatives dominated the commissions. In an inclusive process, the Central Election Commission registered all 234 candidates nominated by 6 political parties by the 19th February deadline. It is important to note that the law prohibits independent candidates, and political parties are not allowed to form electoral blocks. This is against the OSCE commitments and other international obligations and standards. The new requirement that the Central Election Commission records partly financing and spending twice a month during the campaign is a positive development. But the lack of information on donors and how funds were spent limited transparency. On election day, serious procedural errors and other irregularities were observed during voting, counting, and tabulation. During voting, observers saw ballot box stuffing, a very high number of names added to the voter list, as well as group and proxy voting. During counting, PSCs largely failed to follow the reconciliation procedures that would ensure consistency and reliability of the process. Transparency was limited, as international election mission observers were often prevented from the following key process. To summarize, the observation and assessment of these elections has identified significant shortcomings, including the restriction of fundamental civil and political rights, the lack of genuine political choice for voters, the lack of pluralism of opinion in the media, and serious procedural irregularities on election day. I know that ODIHR is ready to assist the authorities in the implementation of our recommendations in the course of the election-related reforms anticipated in the year 2017. These are just some of the main findings in the statement we are presenting here today. That statement provides comprehensive assessment of this electoral process, and copies, as you know, as we have heard, will be available on your way out at the end of this press conference. To finish, I just want to stress again that ODIHR will publish its final report in about 8 weeks' time, and this will contain recommendations based on our assessment. Again, I welcome the Central Election Commission's stated aim to introduce changes to improve the electoral process in Kazakhstan. Again, it is my hope that the recommendations in the final report will assist that process. Thank you again for your time and attention this afternoon.
Thank you very much. As was mentioned, at the end of this press conference, a full statement and a press release will be available outside. It will also be on our websites. This includes in 3 languages, in English, and Kazakh, and Russian. However, for now, we have time for some questions from panelists. If there are any questions, I see one back there. Please make sure to mention your name and your media outlet.
Добрый день, добро пожаловать в Казахстан. Меня зовут Арман Мажанов, я корреспондент почты.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I understand the question is about whether the irregularities mentioned have an effect on the overall election. Do any of the panelists like to?
Yes, I think that this legitimacy is not granted by the international organization. We are here to help the country to provide additional transparency and to enhance the electoral process in Kazakhstan, and we hope that the next time will be better. That the legitimacy is granted by the Kazakh people, not by an international organization.
Thank you. Question down here, yes, ma'am. Wait for the microphone, please.
Казахстанская правда, я хотела бы уточнить, вот вы говорили о чрезмерных штрафах для СМИ, но эти штрафы распространяются в равной степени на все средства массовой информации, вне зависимости от пользователя. То есть, как бы, что давление оказано на всех в равной степени. Как вы это прокомментируете?
I understand the question is the difference between fines for government mass media and private media. I'm not sure it was mentioned that in the statements, but about the sanctions in media.
Well, as far as I know, the fines are both applying to both the state-owned private media, but they actually decide some sort of a free exchange of opinions. If people are simply afraid to speak very openly, if there's some fine. Thank you.
And there's another question right next to you.
I am Dr. Kazakhstan from London, London Post, BBC. We have seen the highest percentage of votes balloting in the way the Kazakh people have exercised their vote to elect their parliamentary candidates. We do not see these highest number of vote balloting in many countries which you are presenting. Yes, there could be irregularities in some places there might have been. But the overall percentage, for example, in Britain or in various other European turnout is maybe 50% or 55%, and the government which are elected, they are maybe 25% or 30%. So where would be a legitimate criticism from your side to these people in Central Asia who presented in a large number in the representation of the government? Well, on the Western countries, the governments are being formed by 30% or even 25% representation or voting they have. But just your comment.
So you're asking for a comment whether the turnout has to do with legitimacy and comparing it to other countries.
Well, I hear there was a criticism about some irregularities in balloting or costing or maybe some administrative issues. But those issues, the very spirit of democracy is about a large number of people who are coming to vote. But that should be also considered when we are making a public or judgment. Does that make sense?
Would anybody like to comment?
Definitely, I think that there don't exist any kind of relation between the level of participation and the irregularities. And as a Democrat, we very welcome the high participation.
Well, it is just in addition to the question. Of course, the reported number recorded fallout of over 70% is worth of high respect. However, as we said, there are some inconsistencies in comparing the records made by the voting. Some of the names were put on the list that are actually people have not voted. And if they would do some sort of reconciliation checks at the end, then the number of the reported turnout would be right. However, there are some inconsistencies that raise doubt about this particular information.
Just to add something, as my colleague from Council of Europe said, we are happy if many people go to vote and exercise their right to vote, but we are not here to make a political evaluation, and I don't think that it's so easy to compare the election between country and country. So we are happy if the Kazakh people voted, but we are here for another issue, with another achievement, not to express the evaluation, but political evaluation.
Yes, thank you for the question. Of course, high turnout could be a very good thing, obviously. But I just want to repeat something I said, because from our observers, there was expressed concern of the integrity of the voting process. And we noticed, for instance, in the case of ballot box stuffing, that also a very high number of names added to the voters list. And we're just asking, is this one of the reasons of this high turnout?
Question back here in the fourth row.
Руслан Мишак, Казахское радио. Вы утверждаете, что в Казахстане в целом избирательная кампания прошла малозаметно. Что для России является показателем высокой активности политической борьбы в рамках законности?
The level of the campaign.
Yes, and we say this because we realize, heard what we say also for our long-term observer, that the campaign was okay. There was not a lot of public debates. Maybe not all the candidates had the same possibility to have a real competition. We didn't see many billboards, we didn't see many moments of real competition between the party and the candidate. It was referring to this when we say UK election.
Any question back here? Second row.
Gina Schulkin, independent journalist. You mentioned that there were some violations in indication ballot stuffing. Do you know which cities that was in or which regions were reported?
There's questions if there's particular regions impacted by ballot stuffing and procedures or areas that were mentioned.
In our report, there are a lot of data about that, but let me just describe the volume of operation, which is perhaps very instructive for you. I can speak only on behalf of the OTR observers. We were about 250. 1,433 observations were made. That means we have visited so many polling stations out of 9,400. And in addition to that, 100 territorial election commissions were visited during the population and counting. So, to me personally, it's always very impressive to see how many data are coming out from the 125,000 data we got and statistically worked on the general assessment of the process. So there is no doubt that the picture that we are getting is very close to reality. Thank you.
Questions down here?
Thank you. Vladimir Sokol, Jamestown Foundation, Washington. I heard and duly noted the ODR's representatives' objections regarding a number of procedural shortcomings of this election. Duly noted. The question to ODR and to the other panelists. Do you imagine that the Russian-occupied Donbass could conceivably provide conditions for monitored and validated elections?
Thank you. I think we want to keep the focus on the elections here in Kazakhstan. So unless anybody feels compelled, I think that can maybe take a conversation at another time. I had a question down here in the third row. In the green.
В вашем отчете сказано, что Национальная социал-демократическая партия использовала в качестве обращения к избирателям социальных сетей по причине финансовых затруднений. Скажите, пожалуйста, с чего вы пришли?
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question, asking why national social mission?
ОСДП, Национальная социал-демократическая партия, использовала в качестве обращения к избирателям социальные сети по причине финансовых затруднений. Скажите, пожалуйста, с чего вы пришли? В вашем отчете как раз сказано.
So it's a question of their use of social media and their outreach.
I think the answer is very simple. First of all, this is a very small party. And secondly, the funds that the party is having to disclose are very low. And that's why they are predominantly using the social media to promote the program of the party and so on. We saw very little of public campaign that would be covered by the National Social Democratic Party.
Thank you. I think we have one more question down here.
The parties do, and what do you think do the voters think if they have spent a lot of money on the campaign itself? I would like to have a comment of you.
So just a comment on what should be done going forward. Very positive.
Well, I think that is an internal matter of how campaigning the different political parties and the political options found in public.
Because I think that we are not inviting to spend more money, just inviting to be more rural. And political pluralism is not just a matter of number of parties, but their real ability to have a real competition between them. So this, in our opinion, was welcome.
Thank you very much. I see no more questions. So with that, I think we will say thank you to everybody. And I close this press conference. The statement should be available outside and on our websites. Thank you very much.